ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
We're doing this for Wednesday, January 13th. The Drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can be a part of this program by calling the Miller Lite phone lines at 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite holds true great taste. It's only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. Coming up on the program, and I've even moved his time up. John Mercer, 5:15, coming up this afternoon. We're going to talk a little Marshall tennis with him, of course. The schedule comes out this week, and I want to get into his thought process, how this scheduling worked, why it is the way it is. Was that part of what the university's trying to do? Was that part of what Conference USA is trying to do? A mixture of both, or just these are the opponents we could find to schedule? I want to get into his mind a little bit and see how that applies across the board for scheduling with Marshall Athletics. So he's coming up in a few short minutes. And, of course, I think he put me off till today because he knows that coming up later this afternoon is going to be NHL time. And it's going to be his beloved Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. And that actually gets underway at 5:30. Coming up on NBC Sports Network. So I promised John I'm going to try to get him off the air in just enough time to watch his Penguins take on the Flyers. So, and that's coming up. That's the start of the season, the opener tonight, featuring multitude of teams, 3 of which will be televised nationally. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, as we mentioned, Chicago at Tampa Bay. That should be a fun one. I look forward to that one at 8 o'clock. And then St. Louis at Colorado. There are a couple of Canadian matchups as well, but NBC is focusing on the American broadcast tonight. Part of that reason being is the Canadian teams will be playing in their own division this year. 4 different distinct geographic divisions. I like it. I wish more leagues would think a little bit along those lines. Now, yeah, sure, it's fun to play those teams from across divisions, but if you're really scheduling, I would revamp the whole thing. I mean, same thing with baseball. I would look at American and National League and just think, okay, how can I make this schedule better? How can I make these matchups more enticing? I mean, would it be fun to see Cincinnati and Cleveland play more often? I mean, would it be fun to see Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, have some teams that have some sense geographically? I mean, sure, as a kid, I loved to watch the Reds take on the Dodgers. That was fun for me. But those were also some fun matchups. It wasn't based solely on geography, so you can still have those. But at the same time, I mean, wouldn't it be great if we had these things realigned? Unlike college, realigned, we can have divisions, we can have conferences that make sense. And it's never going to be that way in college because the college conferences are out for themselves. The leagues are out for themselves. The Big 12's out for the Big 12. The Big 10's out for the Big 10. The SEC is out for the SEC. Same thing with the Pac-12 and the ACC. Doing what's best for those individual leagues, for themselves. For those leagues, okay, I get it. I understand. That's why we have strange bedfellows. And now, granted, would you have thought that WVU would have been a Big 12 team just looking at geography? Maybe not. It's worked out well for them. They seem to be happy in that league as an athletic department. But still, wouldn't it be great if you had these rivalries that made more sense? I mean, sure, would you like to see a league in which West Virginia, Pitt, and Penn State are all in the same league playing each other? Like I said, that's a dream. That's not going to happen anytime soon, not in my lifetime anyway. But for the pro sports, I think you can work that way a little bit. Maybe you tweak it a little bit. Maybe you can do so in basketball just a little bit. I think basketball is a little bit better, though, because you have the East and West, and it makes more sense to a degree. Plus, you have some easier pairings there. For baseball, I'd just like to see that sort of revamped. So maybe if this works in the National Hockey League, maybe you can look at that in the future and say, well, why are these teams not playing each other more? Why are these teams, why are these organizations not playing? Why do you not have these franchises interacting with each other instead of putting maybe old standing alignments in favor? I mean, more so in baseball, really. But I think it's going to be fun. As a hockey fan, as a Rangers fan, it's going to be fun. You're going to see the Islanders, the Devils a lot. You're going to see Boston. Of course, you're going to see Pittsburgh. You're going to see teams that make sense. You're going to see Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. That's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to all of that. But we are going to talk a little hockey, just a little, with John Mercer. We're going to talk tennis with him. Marshall Tennis coming up here in the next few minutes. We'll get your phone calls in. Later on, we'll go over what's happening in high school sports in the state of West Virginia. We've kind of got an idea of what the schedule is going to look like. The WVSSAC setting the championship dates in winter and spring, so we'll go over that with you. Let's talk a little TV before we call it a break. The numbers came out. This was after we went off the air yesterday. And, if you've listened to this program any, I really like getting into the minutia, the media, the TV, all that aspect of sport. And the national championship game, Alabama-Ohio State, we watched it. If you're listening to this program, I'm going to bet you listened or watched that game. And I watched a lot of it. I didn't go all out into the megacast. I know some people went into the Skycam, which I hear is was actually better, was actually pretty good. I didn't do the control room. I wasn't really looking forward to the film room because, again, if you're into the weeds, you want to get into that minutia, then maybe that's your channel to watch. The coaches just break it all down and speak to each other. But I just wanted to watch the straight-up game, and I'm sure that's the multitudes that were out there. Just wanted to watch the straight-up game. And early on, I thought we were going to have a game. It got out of hand. Ohio State wasn't up to the test. The Buckeyes win 52-24, and I think this plays into a part of the ratings, but it's going to be the least watched title game ever. The game drew 18.7 million viewers. That's the smallest audience for a title game in 23 years. It was the least watched game in the college football playoff and the BCS. So if you take those two eras and you look at the ratings and the numbers, this is the lowest of both the BCS and the college football playoff. It was also a 27% decline from last year's national championship game between Clemson and LSU. Now, Devontae Smith is an amazing athlete. He is one to watch. He's going to make some team happy. I don't think he's going to be an ultra-high first-round draft pick because I don't think NFL teams are going to go wide receiver unless they've got to pick the go. They got to pick the burn. But he's an amazing athlete, but he's not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was something else last year, right? I mean, that's a part of it. He was a larger-than-life college football quarterback, won the Heisman, and yes, Devontae Smith won the Heisman as well. But I don't know what the attraction was here. You had Ohio State, a team that a lot of fans, at least the ones I'm listening to and seeing on social media, are just like, you don't belong there. And they proved for a while. I thought that they proved for a while they did. I mean, they got to the championship game. You don't just stumble into that. And just didn't hold up here. And the funny thing here is the semifinal games drew a larger number. 19.2 million for Ohio State Clemson and 18.9 million for Alabama and Notre Dame. That's the first time that's happened in a semifinal in the BCS or CFP history. That's according to Sports Media Watch, part of the reports that I was reading today on that. So the championship game, the smallest for a title game in 23 years, a serious decline here, 27% from last year's game between Clemson and LSU. I think the game had a lot to do with it, to be honest. I mean, this thing was getting out of hand. Okay, Alabama's won this thing again. All right. I mean, it's sort of caricature of itself. Now, we're interested because it's Alabama. That means Nick Saban. And what that means is we, as in this listening audience, probably has an interest in it. Plus, where we're at, this is probably a game that was tailor-made for us because Ohio State and Alabama, we have reasons to be interested in. It's just the game itself did not measure up, and I think that's a big part of the reason why the ratings are down. People are just like, I've seen Alabama, and they're beating up on Ohio State. I don't need to see this. We turn our attention to Marshall tennis. I've got John Mercer coming up here on the next break. We're going to talk to him and get his thoughts on the upcoming schedule. I want to get his insight into how the schedule came to be and everything that goes into trying to run a athletic department in COVID-19. And in his case, run a program trying to schedule and deal with everything that is involved with it. So we'll talk to John Mercer when we continue. Later on, we'll go over what's happening in high school sports in West Virginia. We'll break down those dates, what you need to know, and it's all coming up. Thanks for staying tuned. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Joining us now on the Miller Lite phone lines, the head coach of the Marshall women's tennis team, John Mercer. The schedule being released this week. Are you excited? You finally get to play some. You get to play some tennis. You get to see some tennis action here. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to actually play something that counts. So it has been a while since last March, beginning of March,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
How frustrating has it been? The expectations were pretty good for your team. Last we spoke in 2020 when we still were talking about matches that meant something. How have you channeled that? What are the expectations? It's a completely different landscape.
Yeah. We were on a pretty good roll. I mean, we were 11-4 and, feeling pretty good about ourselves. We were heading into a tough stretch with the schedule, but, we were doing well and excited about it. So it was kind of a shame that we had to shut it all down. As far as this year, it's a new year. So, you can't dwell on last year and what happened. And, obviously it's just everything that's happened is completely out of our control. So, which, as you know, it can be a little tough on the coaches sometimes when things get totally out of your control. But, you kind of just use the cliche. I mean, you just kind of take day by day. We were informed right at the beginning of the fall that, we weren't going to be able to play anything all fall. So that was a little tough. But, I give our players a lot of credit. They showed up every single day. We practiced 6 days a week. We got all of our hours in. We did our 20 hours a week. And we did it all fall. I mean, basically almost all the way up till Thanksgiving. And they showed up and worked hard every day, and we're excited about it. And, I was actually, very impressed with the attitude and just the perseverance to go through that, because you just, you're used to playing, especially in the sport of tennis. I mean, you're used to playing like at least every 2 weeks, playing something competitive, whether it's the summer or the fall or the spring. And, growing up in juniors, you're always playing. It's a 52-week sport. So you don't have these off seasons. It's not really designed for off seasons. You got to play to get better. And, so we've had to be creative of trying to create, ways to get better without having, the ability to actually go and compete against other people.
John Mercer joins us. The schedule's been announced, and the first thing that piqued my interest was you're home a lot. You're not on the road much. Is that more of a school mandate, a Conference USA mandate to make this schedule look like this? What went into that?
It was kind of crazy at first because, the first thing that came down was, we had to alter the schedule. The schedules are basically made like 2 years in advance normally. So this year's schedule was already planned out before this even happened, before all that happened in the spring. So the first thing that came out was we had to cancel all of our longer trips, all of our flying trips, our longer travel trips. And so basically what that did is it took off all of our away matches. Not all, but it took off a nice, chunk of them where we were traveling. Our spring break trip, we had a weekend in North Texas where we were playing Florida International. We had another flying trip, that we were playing another, top 50 teams, and we had to take all those off the schedule. And once you take all those off the schedule, then basically what you have left is what we have now. And, now there were some adjustments. We lost a couple teams and we added a couple teams, but everybody seemed, excited and willing to come to Huntington. And, so we just kind of went with it, and, we're glad to host them.
So that includes conference matchups. You couldn't travel if it meant getting on a plane and going. You couldn't do it.
No. Yeah, no. We don't have a mandatory conference schedule. So, basically every year we're, as a coach, we have to put together a 25, date schedule. And, it works out nice. A lot of the teams in the conference like to play. We do play Charlotte this year. We might have a couple other ones on there, but, anything that, is halfway close, other than not that many in our conference, but, that's halfway close that we can drive to, we usually try to play. So, that's just kind of the way it worked out. And, yeah, so, nothing from conference. It's more of, maybe what you'll see in college sports, there's a little more talk about, regionalizing. Our schedule is much more of a regional schedule, versus a conference schedule, which is interesting because that's actually the way it used to be, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So I've been in this a long time, but, there used to be a lot more regional scheduling, and, regions meant something, and we've kind of got away from that to where regions mean nothing and conferences mean something, mean everything. And it didn't always used to be that way, which is interesting.
I also noticed you're piggybacking a couple of opportunities. Charlotte on the 13th of March, then Presbyterian College also in Charlotte on the 14th, and then you look at the schedule, and I looked at it wrong yesterday. It's University of Cincinnati on the 11th of April, and then University of Charleston. So you've got a doubleheader on Sunday. Will Cincinnati and Charleston be facing off against each other as well, or is this just a Marshall doubleheader? Yeah,
it's just a Marshall doubleheader. So we, I like to support, some of the D2 schools, in our state. They always, are very nice about it and appreciative that we give them the opportunity to play. It helps their recruiting, obviously, to be playing a D1 school. And so, just trying to support. We have a lot of kids from this area that play at those schools over the years, and it's nice to bring them back to Huntington, get them down on our course, nice scoreboard, and get big time officials, and play a D1 style match. So I think it's a great experience, for them, and we're glad to help them out.
Yeah, notice as well on the 28th of March you have Virginia Tech and then West Virginia State University with that pairing. Also this year, you're playing against West Virginia University April 3rd, and also back in Morgantown April 16th. So a few days in between drivable games. So for the most part, Charlotte, Murfreesboro, those are probably your biggest trips. Lexington and Murray, Kentucky, probably the next. And, of course, Morgantown's an easy drive.
Yeah, the Morgantown one, that was, kind of a late one, where we decided to do a home and away. So they were really struggling, with their Big 12 schedule. They're still playing their Big 12 schedule, but because of the COVID protocols and, I don't know what else, they were really struggling to try to get matches, to play. And so they, me, the coach here, contacted me and was like, hey, what do you think about playing a doubleheader? We're playing, 2 matches coming away. We'd like to get another match in, before our conference championship. And I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. Like you said, in-state, you can't beat that. And, maybe it'll be fun. We'll see how it works out. So, something different.
Yeah, it's something to talk about as well because West Virginia, a good tennis program. Your tennis program, of course, well regarded as well. So the quality doesn't drop off there when you face off against each other. So they really don't lose. You don't lose. It's not a situation where you're playing a D2. You know the quality isn't going to be as good as, say, playing University of Kentucky right off the bat.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a good matchup, go play them. And again, that leads us into the next weekend's our conference tournament. And, so I'll get us a good quality match on the road, up there in Morgantown, and, kind of continue to tune us up, just one match that weekend. So, hopefully we're fresh, when we go to the conference tournament, and, but we'll be in sync, and used to playing some good competition.
John Mercer's joining me. The Marshall women's tennis schedule is out, so let's go over this a little bit in more detail. As I mentioned, you've got several home games. You're facing off against Middle Tennessee, Charlotte. You technically can't call those conference games because there's not a set conference. You have Virginia Tech. They're always on the schedule, it seems. We mentioned the Mountaineers. You have James Madison University this year. Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Harrisonburg, Virginia, James Madison University. Must be nice to keep it within West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Virginia. Really, you found good. You found a good mix.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're welcome, John. You're welcome.
All the schools. I think a lot of the schools are looking to, this year, obviously, to try to do regional stuff. Although we had James Madison scheduled before, so. Probably almost all those schools, outside adding like the extra match with WVU and stuff, we already had scheduled. We just had more dates scheduled. We had a trip to Las Vegas, to play a couple good teams out there. We were playing Columbia, the top 35 team, playing UNLV. We've gone out there before, had some good success, beat SMU, I think, when we were out there, or beat Las Vegas when we were out there, beat UNLV while we were out there. But like I said, taking those off the schedule definitely made our schedule more regional, which we try to do. If you kind of look back, the history of our scheduling, what I really try to do is, if we're getting on a plane, we're really traveling somewhere, we're trying to play teams that are top 50 teams. Trying to play, and that's basically an attempt to, bolster the schedule, bolster our ranking, move us up, hopefully, get us up in the top 50 where then we can, if we don't win our conference, we can get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament. And so that's really the purpose of the traveling. You can't always do that just playing regional matches. And so, I've always kind of tried to keep a little blend there and try to keep that in mind. So really the scheduling has a lot to do with like what your goals are and, where you feel like your team is, the level of the team. And, not playing the conference schedule gives you more flexibility to do that because there are more dates to play with. And, we're not necessarily playing teams in the conference that aren't nationally ranked. We're not paying a lot of money to fly somewhere and play a team that's a 200 level team, versus a team that's a top 50 team. So, I think it, works out pretty well budgetarily wise and it's efficient. And, we're trying to get, a good bang for our buck. While trying to be competitive nationally.
John Mercer joins me on the program. The Marshall tennis schedule is out. What are the challenges? Scheduling aside, the challenges are now to follow guidelines. When we started this pandemic, we were trying to figure out what it would look like to play during a pandemic. So here we are. What are the guidelines for you? Pretty much, I'm sure, similar to all the other Olympic sports as well. Masks, testing, all of that. What goes into pulling the schedule off?
Yeah, fortunately, tennis, it kind of lends itself towards social distancing. And, once we hit March, hopefully we'll be outside the majority of the time. So, we actually went all fall and didn't test one player or myself, coach tested positive. Everybody went the whole fall playing all those days, all those hours, and no one ever tested positive. So I think the sport itself lends itself, towards this situation in a positive way. In regards to like what the rules are, the different conferences, like Conference USA, they kind of have the sports, they kind of have them tiered, 1, 2, 3 tiers. based on, kind of those things, social distancing, likelihood of proximity to your opponent or whatever and stuff. And we're actually on the bottom tier, like us in golf, we're down there at level 3. So our criteria isn't quite as stringent, but it will be. Got off the phone today with Jared Muse, just kind of went over, there's like a 6-page policy that all of us coaches received, going over every detail of everything. And there's just a lot of detail. So, traveling and, for us who travel in a van, we have to wear the N95 mask. We have to have eye covering. They have to have specific seat assignments. Just detail like that. Eating, everything's eating out. They have to eat in their hotel room. They can't eat together. Hotel rooms, we're supposed to try to, a lot of the kids, they have roommates that also play on the team. So when we get to hotels, we're making room assignments based on, who the roommate is at the dorm. So again, you're kind of minimizing contact tracing. Just a lot of little things like that. But when it comes down to playing a match, it's pretty much going to be the same. So, by the time you show up and walk out there and warm up and play and, go through your warm up and all that, I mean, it's just going to be the same thing. Pretty much what you saw on the football field in the fall. I mean, it looked like a football game. There wasn't anything too bizarre or off the wall, when it came to it. But, we'll just have to pay attention to those details and, planning ahead, really trying to, plan out the meals and the eating and so on. And, minimizing times at rest stops and things like that. So, I don't think it'll be too bad, probably take a trip or two to kind of get into the swing of it as far as like our players who aren't freshmen, because they're, freshmen, they don't know any different. So, probably take a match or two. But you said, I mean, the nice part is that, we have a lot of matches at home. So, we'll just, do the same thing as before. They'll probably just have to eat, in their dorms or in their apartments before they come. They won't be able to have a pregame meal, like we have before. So it'll be a little different, but, we still get to play the game, which is the great thing. So, we're all excited about that.
Joining us on the program, John Mercer, head coach of the Marshall tennis team. The ladies' schedule comes out. It starts on January 28th, ends hopefully for you, Coach, on April 25th. That'll be the championship game of the Conference USA tournament in Denton, Texas. As I know you're excited to finally get this underway, but I'm kind of curious. Yesterday, I get the schedule yesterday. I'm like, oh, great. John will be on the show yesterday to talk to me. No, you weren't having that. You were like, no, I'm busy. I don't have time for you today, Swann. And my first thought was, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. John doesn't have time for me? Really? And
I didn't mean to be big timing you.
That's okay. I mean, that's all right. I get it. I mean, Kemper doesn't big time me. I mean, you and Agnes maybe, but not Kemper. I mean, Thankfully, I know who takes care of me over there. It's Kemper, not big a timing me, but now you, Ari, big timing me recently. I mean, what are you guys doing? Coaching or something? I mean, are you running practice? I mean, what are you doing over there?
Actually, I had a tennis lesson.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so you're coaching.
Yeah.
All right.
I was coaching, yeah.
Yeah, so you and Ari are doing like the coaching thing. I get it, but no, I know the real reason why you wanted to wait till today.
Why is that? Hockey season.
Hockey season, yeah, I know. Penguins Flyers are on right now. I'm surprised you haven't hung up this phone call just yet.
Games are important.
Penguins, you think the Penguins have a shot this year? I don't think so, but
I don't know. We'll have to see how the season starts. I don't know. They made some interesting moves in the offseason, so that was good. Seemed like they got a little younger, a little faster, which they needed to do. It just seems so much hockey, can you stay healthy, right? Can you stay healthy and get a hot goaltender? So, hopefully we'll see. We got rid of Matt Murray. He left. I mean, obviously winning 2 Stanley Cups was unbelievable, but maybe Jari, maybe he'll play even better knowing he's the guy. So, You never know. I mean, outside of college football, there always seems to be a dark horse coming out of nowhere. So
I'm hoping.
we'll
I'm hoping your
see
guy.
what happens.
Yeah, I'm hoping your guy Evgeny Malkin is going to be good. I'm hoping he's good this year.
I hope so.
Yeah, because he's on my fantasy
That
team.
line could be pretty good. They added that. Who was that guy they added? They added somebody else, right? They have Russ, and they added another guy who's pretty fast, who's good. So, yeah, that could be a sleeper line. How are the Rangers?
The Rangers are going to be loaded. Just be ready. There'll be trash talking this year. Actually, there will be trash talk this year. It's coming.
How's that number one draft pick?
He's going to be on, like, I think the second or third line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're going to work him up.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're going to put him on the third line. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one finally issuing some trash talk between us. And
it's like the Cleveland Brown fans. They finally win a game after like 20 years, and they're trash talking. It's like, talk to me in another 20 years.
Wow.
Like
bombs dropped. John Mercer, talk to me in another 20 years, Browns fans.
I mean, like, really. Like, one game. Like, if you get 20 chances, you're probably going to win one of them.
Hey, by the way,
So,
I just want to let you know, your phone did not hear from me when the Bengals beat the Steelers. I just want to put that out there right now. Your phone did not hear from me when that happened. I let that be.
That's true. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What a disappointing end of the year, right? After 11-0.
Yeah, I mean, sorry it happened, but I left that alone. And you know what? My phone was quiet too, because usually your former assistant coach Kelly Schmidt would text me every time the Steelers played the Bengals. I think she's lost my number. So, all I know, Coach. All I know, Coach, is just watch your back around Woody Woodrum. That's all I'm saying.
Fuzzy.
As a Browns fan, right?
I saw him today. He didn't say anything, so that's a good thing.
Did he know you were a Steelers fan?
I don't know.
He knows now.
I don't know.
He knows now.
He definitely knows, huh? So,
he knows now.
Yeah. Well, you know me, born and raised. So you grew up with those Steelers of the '70s. So good time to grow up in Pittsburgh, in the Burgh. So I don't know. We blamed this whole thing on the Ravens. You know that, right?
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Because that's when the whole thing fell apart, right?
I got you.
The Ravens got to get COVID, and then all of a sudden we're playing 3 games in like 10 days, right? We never were the same thing.
I got you. Yeah. I mean, it sounds
know,
good.
No love there, right? So now I'm going to throw the Raven fans under the bus too.
That sounds like a good excuse. I mean, I'm not buying it, but okay. If that's how you want to roll. Just remember, Friday the 22nd. Make sure your phone's on silent. That's all right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, that's our matchup. That's our matchup. The Rangers Penguins.
Am I a Bills fan now? Am I a Bills fan?
Coach, you can be a fan of any other team you want. Because obviously your first team is no longer in the playoffs. So yeah, you can be a fan of any other team you want.
Yeah. I don't know. All right.
Be a Chiefs fan. You know what? You can be a Chiefs fan this weekend. There you go.
I got my Steelers, my Thundering Herd, and there you go.
That's all you need.
And I got to root a little bit for Ohio State, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Got that Ohio State connection. So. Got to root for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're good in other sports.
Yeah. Well.
Maybe not football,
men's
but
tennis team, I think they're men's tennis. I think my son's team. I think they're 2 in the country or something.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully he's not a football player right now. I mean, so there you go.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I didn't ask him how they were taking that. So.
I'll tell you what, you should ask him how they're taking that, and report back to me. I want to hear. You let me know.
I'll let you know. He plays a little bit of tennis with Coach Day, actually.
Okay. And
Coach Day is a tennis guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And good news, by the way. The Penguins have scored first. It's 1-0 Penguins over the Flyers. So there you go. You have my thanks for joining me. I will let you go watch this game now, so you can follow along. And Just, again, watch your back around some Browns fans. They do listen.
I got you. I'll be careful.
Thank you, sir.
So, all right. Thank you, Paul. Go Herd.
John Mercer, head coach of the tennis team. We continue with today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Buckle up. Paul Swann has the wheel on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We continue with today's edition of The Drive, presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WVSSAC releasing some key dates today. I know you've been trying to figure out when do the kids get to go back and participate in some sports. Well, the dates look like this. Winter sports, which include basketball, swimming, and wrestling, open up preseason practice February 15th. You have to have 14 days of practice minimum before you get into your first competition. Girls basketball teams can open up play March 3rd. Boys teams get to start 2 days later. Swimming, which will be hosted in Morgantown, the championship, going to be between April 20th and 21st. Wrestling hosted here in Huntington. Class single A to double A, April 21st to 22nd. Class triple A, 23rd to 24th. Girls basketball, which will be held in Charleston, April 27th to May 1st. And boys basketball, also in Charleston, May 4th to May 8th. Spring sports permitted to begin practice March 15th. Competition can start up on April 12th. Teams can participate in the championship games or matches starting in tennis June 3rd to 5th. Track, which will be in Charleston. Class A is going to be June 10th. Class AA June 11th. And Class AAA June 12th. Softball hosted in Charleston June 22nd and 23rd. Baseball in Charleston June 24th and 26th between those days. So that's what it looks like. WVSSAC coming out with some key dates here. And now we just have to get these kids back on the court, on the field, in the field of play safely. We're going to take our final time out. We went a little long, just a little, with Coach Mercer, as I thought we'd always do. Hey, look, I fired John up on the phone. He's good for 30 minutes. That's how much I love talking to the guy. But we're going to take our final break, come back, and we'll wrap it up here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And don't forget, wherever you get your podcast is where you're going to find the program. So if you like Apple Podcasts, you can grab it there. Or if you're more of an Android user, you've got several options there. You got Spotify. Spotify is a great platform, by the way. You have TuneIn. You have Stitcher. So many platforms. If none of those make any sense to you, of course, you know where you get your podcast. You can find The Drive with Paul Swann right there. Download it every day. Subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, hit us up. Give us a review. We really appreciate it. Back here at the station, I'd like to know how we're doing. And if you give us a 5-star review, more people can find the program. So I appreciate everyone spreading the word and listening to the podcast daily. It does mean a lot. And I see sometimes where those downloads are coming from. And I look at the map and I go, okay, here's part of West Virginia. Okay, that makes sense. We're getting a lot of hits here. New England. Okay, that's cool. We got some fans there. The United Kingdom. Okay. Hey, Canada was helping us for a while. We appreciate that during the football run. So a lot of people checking out the show. It's fascinating sometimes just to figure out where are Herd fans on the map. I mean, if I could just chart Herd fans, where are you on the map? Are you listening on the stream? Are you listening on the podcast? Of course, you're regional. You're in the area if you're listening to the show live over the air. So I know where you're at, but if you're listening to any other platform, it's fascinating sometimes to see the map and go, okay, I can see some Herd fans hanging out here. Oh, hey, look, we've got some fans here in the United Kingdom. And that one always fascinates me, and a couple other countries. But thanks for tuning in. I guess that's what I want to say. Thanks for tuning in. Do appreciate you grabbing the show that way. And hopefully it's been something that's been beneficial to you over these last few months as we are getting into the basketball side of this. And coming up on the program tomorrow, I've got the voice of the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, Randy Lee. He's going to join us. We're going to talk about those Hilltoppers. Marshall playing that game on Friday, going to be in Bowling Green, and then the return game is going to be Sunday. It's scheduled a little different, one, because Marshall needed an extra day to practice because of last week's quarantining and contact tracing. And also, this is your travel partner, so you play one at home, you play one on the road. That's the new format here in Conference USA. It's at least for this season. I don't know if this carries over to the next season as well, but at this time, this is where we're at. I like the series, though. I like it being close. I don't know, though. Would you start with your travel partner and then end with your travel partner? I mean, if you're opening up your conference schedule, would you start your schedule with the travel partner? Because that's the opponent that you think is among your chief rivals. I mean, for Western Kentucky, it could roll with Middle Tennessee and be good, but would you start out with your travel partner? You play that first one, and then you save that matchup again until the very end. I mean, think about that on the schedule. You can't do that in other sports. You can do that in basketball, the way this thing's broken down. How cool would that be? You start with Western Kentucky right off the bat, right out of the gate. Here it is. This is one of your main nemesis. And that could be the same way for all schools in Conference USA. You get the first look at that team that you just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's you again. All right, let's go. Let's do this. And I think that'd be fun. And then you have the second one right at the end before the start of the conference tournament. I mean, maybe that game means something. Maybe you're just playing it to play it out. I don't know. I kind of like that schedule concept. I will forward that over at the next meeting. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank my guest, the honorable head coach of the Marshall women's tennis team, John Mercer. Appreciate him stepping in and talking to me, and I know he's probably watching that Penguins game right now because I told him it was on. His Penguins are winning right now. Nope, I spoke too soon. Penguins and Flyers are tied, 1 apiece. That game, the first piece of real hockey we've had in a long time. So I'm going to go check that out. We will talk to you tomorrow. Voice of the Hilltoppers, Randy Lee, will join me. Thanks for tuning in to The Drive. Good night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.